The minute the doorbell rang, I knew that something was wrong. The sound set my nerves jangling, as if it was plugged into my brain. My thoughts flew to the box in the basement, but before I could move, Mara had leaped up. "That will be Bandy," she said. About time, too. She opened the door. Two men stood in the street. They had AgriGlobal written all over them. Dark suits, short hair, clean shoes, mirrored shades. "We're looking for Miss Stella Jordan," the first one said. Mara looked back at me, worry in her dark eyes. "You need to come with us," he said. I got up. "Can I just—" Now. There was no use protesting. I grabbed my bag and headed out. There was a silver van standing outside. It looked so out of place in our street, like platinum dentures in a vagrant's ruined mouth. "Nice wheels," I said. Suit one gave a small, tight smile as he held open the door. "Where are you taking me?" I asked as we pulled out. We drove past crumbling buildings and old iron staircases bumping over potholes. "Nothing to worry about," he said. That wasn't an answer, but it didn't matter. I knew anyway. There was nowhere in Sector 87 to go, except for AgriGlobal. At that moment, all I felt was angry. I'd always known that Mandy's obsession would get us into trouble, but would she listen? Never. She would just get that look on her face, biting her lip, her eyebrows drawn together in a line. "I'm going to win, Stella," she would say to me. "I know I can cook." The weird thing is, she could, you know? She really knew how to cook. Nobody from the sectors had even seen real food in their lifetime. It was 50 years since the dying out, 30 since the last great food wars, and 20 since AgriGlobal crushed the last aquaculture smallholdings and established itself as the world's largest, only, manufacturer of artificial food. Nutrition, they called it, which quickly got shortened to Nutri. Nutri fueling the future, the ads say, with over 70 great flavors to choose from. Just squeeze and go. No mess, no fuss, and although I'd like to say no hunger, at least people no longer starve to death. We owed everything to AgriGlobal, and they owned everything. Governments, armies, energy production, manufacturing, media, healthcare, communications, travel, temporal and spatial, you name it, they owned it. Everything people needed, and people needed fuel, and we all needed Nutri. That's not to say everyone was happy about it. I mean, look around you, right? But what choice did we have? We all grew up on Nutri. Mara said us younglings were always clamoring for our tubes, but Mandy, she'd have just faded away if Mara hadn't practically injected it into her. She was always the littlest of us, still is. We used to call her 2D. Turn her sideways and she'd vanish. I always had to remind her to fuel up. "Yum, roast chicken and beans, an apple crumble, your favorite, I'd say." She'd suck up a bit of her Nutri and then hand the rest to me while Mara wasn't looking. I wasn't complaining. The driver took a right turn out of the sector and onto the highway. I looked out at the dusty, ravaged land that stretched away on either side till it merged with the horizon, and thought back to that day 2 years ago when AgriGlobal TV had announced that the online temporal relocation portal had gone live, and that the biggest show on the planet was about to be broadcast. Master Chef of all time. That was the day everything stopped. Schools closed, offices shut down, factories were silent, the skyways were empty, there wasn't a single auto on the streets. Everyone was home watching. It was the reality show to end all reality shows. 12 specially selected contestants were sent back in time to battle it out every week for the ultimate prize, the Master Chef Golden Apron. In the words of Judge Cheng, we're not just talking real food, we're talking about real cooking. You gotta work for it. You wanna make fish? You gotta catch the bugger first. You wanna roast potatoes? You gotta dig 'em up. You gotta chop your logs and stoke up that fire before you even think about baking. You get me? It was a seriously great show. We all loved it. Everyone did. But Mandy, she didn't just love it, she was obsessed. She was addicted. She'd stare at the screen as if she was eating it with her eyes. She used to record every episode and play it back in slow-mo, freeze framing, and all the time scribbling away. There were stacks of notebooks and scraps of paper in her room, recipes